We also talk in the book a lot about, there's a chapter called Damn It, D-A-M-I-T, damn it. This all started with Secretary Babbitt, the Department of Interior Secretary under Bill Clinton. This guy literally, think about this. This is the Department of Interior Secretary. This guy literally went around the country and would have press conferences at dams with a sledgehammer in his hand. It was called the Sledgehammer Tour. He wanted to tear down every dam in America. And guess what? The environmentalists do want to tear down every dam in America. Now, why would they want to do this? Because when they can limit the amount of water we have, they're going to eliminate how many people there are. But it all goes back to Karl Marx and Frederick Engels, and Justus von Liebig. The guano. There are more people. Look what these people are doing to the planet. They want to starve us. They want to cut off our water supply. Now, they can say it's all about the fish all they want. But I'm just telling you, when you start tearing down these dams, in California, we've got a saying, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting over. We don't have enough water around here. And when you start to see the plans they have to tear down Hetch and these other dams, what they're doing in the Klamath River Basin, there are 600,000 people that get their electricity from hydropower in the Klamath River Basin up in Northern California. 210,000 acres of the best farmland in America watered by those dams. Those dams are going bye-bye, folks. The environmentalists are winning that one. Those dams are going bye-bye. What's going to happen to all the people that for generations have made a living farming? Where are we going to get this food replaced from? This is what they're doing all over the country. Severe water shortages in 36 states. We've got to change that. In the book, I tell us how. Nuclear power. When you read this book, you will learn how to build a nuclear power plant. And I will tell you what Obama's done to the nuclear industry. A lot of people say, well, Brian just permitted two nuclear plants in Georgia. No, read the book and you'll find out. He didn't want that to happen. He appointed a radical to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission as its chairman to try stop those plans, and it didn't work. We're getting 2 nuclear power plants, but folks, over the next 40 years, we need, at the minimum, 100 just to maintain parity, and probably 200. And when you see them building nuclear power plants in third world countries these days, we should be doing that here. And it's all US firms doing this because they can't do any building here. And then I talk about drill it in the book, drill it. So we got damn it, log it, drill it. The log it part, by the way, is really cool. Beginning of the book. The founders of this country did not want the federal government to own any property. It just was not a part of the plan. And I talk about the slippery slope we've traveled. The slippery slope began with this. The territory of Arkansas had some hot springs. Hot Springs, Arkansas. And so they found out about this in Washington, D.C., and they thought there were medicinal powers in the springs. People get healed. So this is just after the Civil War. They thought, wait a second, for our Civil War veterans, we need to give them the hot springs. We're going to federalize that property. We're going to build a hospital next to it. All the veterans can come down, and they're going to be able to have free hot springs, and that's what we're going to do for our vets. We'll make it a national reserve. But then some liberals back in the day said, well, okay, but what about all the other people who have ailments? Well, they'll be able to pay if they want to go there. But what about the people who can't pay? Well, we'll give them free hot springs treatments. This was like the first Medi-Cal program. People were coming down to the hot springs. If you could prove that you were poor, you'd be able to have a free hot spring. This was the first federalized piece of land that really had nothing to do with post offices, military bases, etc. That was the first step. The second step was Yosemite, where the federal government said, okay, listen, we own this property. California, we'll give it to you if you'll make it a park. Okay, so that's fine. I think the states should own all the parks. I don't think the federal government should own one national park or national reserve or national anything. I think those should all be bequeathed to the states. Let them take care of it. It's their property, and originally it was. So that's kind of the slippery slope, and you read this in the book, and you'll be shocked to see how far we've strayed from the original intent of our founders. But then Obama's oil directives. You're going to read something in this book that's shocking. No one's quite pieced it together just yet. And I had some brilliant minds working with me on this. This wasn't a solo effort. I would contact experts in all these fields, just bouncing stuff off of them. But when you see how Obama has, in the Gulf alone, during 2010 and 2011, we were losing 310,000 barrels of production of oil a day. A day. No one's talking about that, but it's true. He's completely shut off operations in Alaska, and he's completely shut down operations off the Gulf Coast, even though initially he promised the people of Virginia that he'd open up that area for drilling. 2 months after he made the promise, he cut it off through 2017. Shell Oil had been ready to go with some big projects up in Alaska in absolute no man's land, and the people of Alaska were all for this. Barack Obama cut that one off. Shell lost billions of dollars because they weren't able to go forward with this plan. What he's doing to our oil supply is criminal, and instead, we're beholden to these guys from OPEC. And the Saudis know how much oil we have available here, and if we were ever to tap it, I've got news for you. The Saudi chieftains would soil their tunics if we started tapping that oil. They do not want us to do this. I also finish up the book. I try to make it encouraging. The title is scary, Eco-Tyranny, how the left's greed agenda will dismantle America. But the back end is very positive, and I talk about how we can create jobs, and we can turn this country around, and we can harvest our resources responsibly. Because with the left, it's not that they hate oil, they just hate big oil. They're just like Karl Marx and Vladimir Lenin, and, can I say this? Adolf Hitler, who did not believe anyone should make a profit off of a natural resource. That's why our U.S. Import-Export Bank is giving money to other countries so they can harvest their oil, but they want to take away subsidies, which are not subsidies at all, for U.S. oil companies. They're giving money to Brazil so it can harvest its oil. Why? Because Brazil is a state-run oil company. The money goes back to the people, just as Marx intended it to. Just as Lenin intended it to if it were to be harvested at all. Just as Hitler intended it to. This is what we're doing, folks. Back into the book's very encouraging. I talk about some patriots who gave it all. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness was backed up with the promise of giving your life, your fortune, and your sacred honor for this country. Folks, we're at a crossroads. We all need to be willing to do something here. If we're going to get this country back, if we're going to save America, we've got to do something. So in the back of the book, I talk about 3 couples that just, every time I think about them and I finally wrote about them, I get a little emotional because these people gave it all for the United States of America. And I'll just think of a couple right now. There's Honest John Hart. Honest John Hart was, he was not a learned man, he was not a schooled man, but he ended up becoming a signer of the Declaration. And his wife, Deborah, she was one of these people who said, John, you go and do this, because it's going to be good for this country should it ever become founded. So no sooner had John signed the Declaration, he came back home, his wife was very, very ill. He was tending to her by her bedside, she dies. He's just beginning the grieving process, and suddenly some British troops have been tipped off. That's where John Hart lives. Now, prior to the signing of the Declaration, he was a loyal British subject. The king loved this guy, just a common man who did really well. The Brits found him. He had a bunch of kids. He shouted to his kids to run. They all ran in one direction, and he ran into the woods. John Hart was hunted by the British for an entire year. He lived in the forest for an entire year. He was never even able to grieve his wife's death. He came back to his property a year later. The place was ransacked. It was destroyed. He couldn't find his kids. They say he died on his own property of a broken heart. John Hart dies of a broken heart. That's one of the founders of this country. He gave his life, his fortune, his sacred honor. I'll give you one more. I love these stories. There are some other people that lived on Long Island, and this particular couple had also been very loyal to the throne, Francis and Elizabeth Lewis. They'd been given 5,000 acres on Long Island because Francis, he was a business guy. Francis is doing business up in Canada during the French-Indian War, and the French take him captive, even though he's just a businessman. They take him captive, they ship him on a boat back to France to prison in a box. He suffers through that, there's a prisoner swap, he comes back home, and the king said, listen, you've been a good guy, you do not deserve this, here's 5,000 acres on Long Island, live well. So you'd think he'd be loyal to the throne, but he starts to see the tyranny coming from the throne, and he was longing for liberty. He ends up becoming a signer of the Constitution. No sooner did he sign the document, the Brits said, that SOB, we're going out. All we did for him, and he signed that document, they put warships outside of his house on Long Island and started firing cannonballs into his house. His wife was on a balcony. She's on a balcony in the house, and she's cursing the Brits as they're firing at her, not budging at all. One cannonball whizzes right past her into the house. One of her servants says, ma'am, get down, get down. She says, the likelihood of them firing a cannonball in the same place, it's not going to happen. She stood there, and cannonballs come into the house. Brits come in from behind on the ground, take her, strip her of her nice clothing. In fact, she had gold buckles on her shoes, but they really weren't gold, they just looked gold. They ripped those gold buckles off. These greedy guys wanted the gold. And she classically used a line from Shakespeare, all that glitters is not gold. They threw her in prison, no clothing, no food, no nothing. Throw her in prison, no bed. One of her African servants found her, was able to bring her food on a regular basis to somewhat keep her alive. After months and months of this, there was a prisoner swap. She got out, she was sick, she never recovered, she dies. Francis is so distraught by all of this, he leaves public life immediately, basically goes into a depression, and pretty much vanishes from the scene. They gave their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor for the United States of America. Folks, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? It's our time. This is a very important election. This is just one little slice of it, folks, but it's what I can do. So I want you to do a couple things for me. I want you to be my ambassador. Get the word out on this book. Get the word out. If you have an opportunity to purchase a copy tonight, I would love to sign it for you. If not, go on Amazon, go to Barnes & Noble, download a copy, or purchase a copy, there'll be other opportunities for me to sign that in the future. Get the word out on the book. I need you to be my ground soldiers on this. We need this to be another bestseller. The word has got to get out, particularly what this administration is doing via environmental policy, stealing our life, liberty, and our pursuit of happiness. We've got to stop this. So I thank you for your support. Now, go ahead. I need a pause. We're going to go back to the table here, and I know that there's going to be a good chunk of you that would like to purchase a book now, and I'm honored by that. We got to keep it moving. We got to keep moving. So this will just be an opportunity for me to say, okay, your name, brief inscription, my signature, and a hearty handshake. God bless you, thank you for your support, and then we'll get right to the next person. Because my tendency, if you've ever been to these things, I linger, okay? Everybody said, Brian, would you quit talking? So if we just do this really quick, I think we can service as many people as possible. That will be great. And we take, all of the people over there even take credit cards this time around. So we'll do that in just a moment, and we'll try to move this forward. Of course, I start my day at 2 a.m., so, you know, I'm a little fuzzy right now, but I think I can handle a little of this. You people keep me jacked up. Can we do just a brief period of Q&A? Maybe you have some questions. I think they've been written down accordingly, correct?
Like we've done the last couple of times, we'll have some people out here passing out 3x5 cards. Allow you to write your question down real quickly, and it'll be read to Brian. So we got those going yet? I thought this is in there. I've seen it before, but we've got rid of this now. Sure you don't want to have the slideshow?
Okay, so your Q&A, where are the questions coming from? Okay?
Get it back in a bit.
Okay, so folks, if you could, you're passing out the cards, what are you doing? All right. Okay, are you ready for the first question? No?
No.
They're writing their questions down? Okay? Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So we're handing out the cards for the questions, correct? Okay, very good. I should also mention the fact that when Mr. Horowitz is here next month, David Horowitz is one of the worst interviews on radio because he has hearing problems and he doesn't hear the questions that you ask him, you know, when you're in a phone conversation with him. But I will actually put him on the radio next time in preparation for his appearance here on the 2nd. I will actually do that. So it's going to be a David Horowitz monologue on my program because he doesn't listen. No, I just think he can't hear. He clearly, you know, too many mega bullhorns in the ear when he was a leftist on hippie campuses back in the 60s. Okay, do we have a question? Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Barely. Okay.
How do you get so much seemingly boundless energy? Are you solar powered?
Am I solar powered? I'm caffeine powered in the morning, and my beautiful wife is trying to make me cut down. I haven't found a substitute for caffeine that's legal, so this is a real problem. Yes. Go ahead.
Is the Club of Rome discussed in your book?
Is the Club of Rome discussed in my book? Briefly, just briefly. The Club of Rome is very real. It's very much alive. The central focus of my book, the green agenda, is Agenda 21. That's the central focus of the book. And did you notice I said Agenda 21? I don't have tinfoil on my head? Okay, next.
What is the Club of Rome for people who don't know about it?
Club of Rome is a group of elitists. Some are business people, some are academicians who really have a utopian view of the world. It is a very real club. Members of the Stanford campus, Cal have been a part of it, as well as very, very wealthy individuals. You have to be invited to attend.
Have you heard anything about the speculation that Obama's Harvard education was financed by Bill Ayer's parents and who lives with them in their Glen Ellen, Illinois home for the summers?
Yes, we interviewed the postman who delivered mail to Bill Ayer's parents' house, and it would really appear as if this guy's spot on. They scholarshiped Barack Obama as he was attending Harvard University. And Barack Obama, I don't think there's any real doubt about that. Next, please. Well, okay, hang on. We're going to do 2 more questions, my handler says. Okay, here's one. Is algae going to save the planet? The algae biofuel is actually pretty cool. But like a lot of cool ideas, it's nowhere near ready for prime time. I mean, just like solar power. Invented by, you ready for this? It's in the book. You'll know how to build a solar panel after you read this book. Invented by Albert Einstein. It's pretty cool stuff. And it would probably be viable today on a large-scale basis if the government would stay out. Once you finally read, thank you, yes. Nobody's ever done this before. I've done the math to show you what the subsidies are per kilowatt hour and megawatt hour for solar and wind, and it will shock you. Per megawatt hour for solar is $24 a megawatt. That's the subsidy that the government's giving. Okay, one more for you. Here we go. You said there is no global warming for the last 17 years. Where are all the media photos of the polar ice caps coming from? Well, here's the thing. Glacier always calves. That's what it does. Especially when it's growing, when glaciers are glowing, they start falling off into the ocean. So when they show you those pictures, actually those glaciers are growing. But the truth of the matter is we've seen the largest reformation of Arctic ice in a long time this particular winter and last year up in the Arctic areas. And this is something that has to do with ocean currents and not climate change. There's always a sub-story to all this kind of stuff. And if you just look through the details, as I always like to do, you'll find you can blow the agenda right through the roof based on the facts. And in this book, Eco-Tyranny, I think I have like 500 footnotes. I mean, you want to follow my footnotes, it's pretty awesome stuff. Thank you all very much. God bless you. God save the great state of California. God save this country. I'm exiting stage right. Thank you.
What I'd like to do is appreciation. It was anxious to get things going here, but I would like to get a picture of.
Thank you.